Happy Monday, everyone. Welcome back to Verified Gains. Hope everybody is having a good week so far. Today's date is January 27th, 2025. Let's dive right into the Bitcoin charts. Um, so here we have a strong rejection from this second yellow trend line that I drew last time. Initially, this was the original trend line. We sort of broke down to the downside and tried to retest a couple of times, but then ended up getting strongly rejected. So since that time, I drew this new yellow trend line, and it has been retesting it about, multiple times now. If you see over here, this was a retest, this was a retest, and this was a retest with a hard rejection. So, you know what? I think it's appropriate to just get rid of this yellow trend line now, the first one, because it's a little bit outdated. So now let's focus on this new yellow trend line. And so is the sentiment as bullish as before? No, because now we have a lower target in terms of breaking to the upside and consolidating above the yellow trend line. But unfortunately, that's how the market is right now. And the most important thing to do is to quickly adapt to any new environment. So far, um, the news is, well, what is the news, right? Because we're always wondering the reason as to, you know, why is Bitcoin price dropping? Why is Solana price dropping? And the most recent news was the Chinese AI company, DeepSeek, that gave a little bit of fear to the US technology companies, the AI companies, and crypto in general as well. But the reality is, and I'll cover it on the Solana chart as well. But in a way, at least I foresaw this rejection coming, and it's more apparent on the Solana price chart. But like I've said before, time and time again, the technical analysis, what you see on the charts is simply a lagging indicator and reflection of what goes on in the real world. So after seeing these, red candlesticks, we can then say, oh, maybe that was because of the new Chinese AI company, DeepSeek. But in reality, you're not really going to be able to predict that. And by the time you sell on the news, well, you would have already lost a little bit of money. So that's why I like to read the news, but I don't trade based on the news. I trade based on technicals. And, for us, not so apparent on the Bitcoin chart, but on the Solana, it'll be a little more apparent what I'm talking about. In terms of Bitcoin, just to wrap things up, right now we have this nice red candlestick with a shadow to about $97,000, $98,000. So I would not be surprised if we retest the $98,000 mark. That would also coincide with, a nice horizontal support line over here. So perhaps we can even go ahead and draw one right there. Okay. So we'll see if this plays out. So, this might be a good opportunity to dollar cost average. Of course, not financial advice, but that would be the best price point, if I were buying Bitcoin. The other possibility, of course, is we break to the upside, and let's quickly calculate what that could be. So around 6% to the upside, but about 2% downside. So, of course, the risk is in your favor. And, some people are saying, okay, we might retest 92,000, which is negative 8%. And then I also saw some very bearish news saying that we might drop even to the $70,000 range, which would be a 30% to the downside. But from the all-time high, 30, 35%, which is not impossible, by the way. It is somewhat expected, but it's going to absolutely decimate the altcoins if that happens right now. I think the best case scenario is if we did go up a little more before we experience that kind of 30% drawdown. And, my prediction is just based on, past experience, that would be more likely to happen once we hit the top of this pi cycle top indicator. So over here, this is actually the 350-day moving average times 2. So that's what this green trend line represents. So, let's say that, we go up another 40%, okay, from here. And don't be surprised if you see a 30 to 40% pullback from here, which would be around 98,000 to about, mid 80s. Okay. So that's definitely a possibility. But, we're probably going to hit at least the 111-day moving average, which will put it at about 88,000. So, but that would be the case if this were all to happen, in the next 1 month. But I'm not sure if that's going to be the case. So for now, just remember that these are great technical support lines to refer to. And don't be surprised if one day we come down from 143, like 140,000, all the way back down to 98,000. So, that's another reason why 98,000 is a good price to dollar cost average in general. And I think that's a fair price. It's still under 100K. I don't know what the final price of the Bitcoin is going to be, but it's a fair price. Let's look at Bitcoin dominance very quickly because, if this altcoin cycle were to happen, meaning that the market capitalization or the proportion of altcoins, the value of altcoins is going to decrease the Bitcoin dominance percentage, if that makes sense, right? Because the Bitcoin dominance is looking at the proportion of Bitcoin's market cap over the total market cap of cryptocurrency as a whole. So, the fact that this Bitcoin dominance is increasing right now, I think more has to do with the drop in altcoin value. But if we were to see an altcoin cycle, then, we're going to have to see a drop in dominance. And right now, a lot of people are saying it's going to happen sometime soon, but I'm not sure if that's the case because, at the end of the day, the Bitcoin dominance has to do with trends also. And this MACD technical is not typically associated with a downtrend, at least anytime soon. So, I would hold your horses. I know it's very painful in the altcoin world right now, but we might have to give it a little bit more time before we see some reversal here, unless there is some sort of, event that would, trigger a quick reversal otherwise, which is definitely a possibility. But let's move on to Solana because I'm going to explain what I was talking about earlier. So just from a pure technical perspective, we had this $256 resistance line. I said, okay, well, if I were going to DCA, then the perfect opportunity to be once we break to the upside and then consolidate, meaning that we at least have some, candlesticks that open and close above the $256 mark. Now, over the weekend, I admit I did dollar cost average right at $256. Um, I believe it was one of these two candlesticks, and I saw that it might have been on Sunday because I saw that it closed like right at, that price target I was looking at, and initially it was a green candlestick that was, forming above the $256 mark. So I said, okay, well, I'm taking a risk. This is a risk on dollar cost averaging, with the potential downside being 220. And we already established that last week. But I ended up buying because, it was time to dollar cost average and I was a little bit hopeful, but we ended up getting a strong rejection off the $256 mark. And today, in fact, we did end up hitting a low of $220, like I predicted. Okay. So you really cannot make this up. And this is the power of technical analysis. I mean, we knew the $220 was coming. Although it was not with 100% certainty, right? Because if it was 100% certainty, why would I buy at 256? But there was a possibility of it hitting $220, and it happened. Now, that's purely technical. We know that this drawdown had a lot to do with the recent news with DeepSeek, but I mean, how would you put that into price terms? So because there's the, quote unquote bad news for the US tech sector, does that necessarily equal to Solana dropping to a price of 220, right? So if you're just reading the news, you wouldn't have been able to predict that price. But we were able to see that because I drew this technical support line. So, you know, this is a very good example of what it means to dollar cost average based on technical analysis. And then you use the real world news to basically support your argument for it. And I didn't see that coming at all because that was a very recent news, and when I bought it in at $256, I'm sure people in the industry knew about it, but I, as a normal retail investor, was not aware of the news. Just read the news today, and here we are. Um, $220 was a great entry price. I think what we're going to end up seeing is a retest of the $220 mark. So just like any other technical, we got this long shadow to the downside, and I would not be surprised if we start forming some candles, like let's say here, until we form a real body that either closes or opens at $220. So look out for that as well. And that about wraps it up for today. I know we really haven't been talking about meme coins, but there's not much to talk about. I mean, right now I'm just holding on to them. It is very painful, and if you bought it at the top over here, I'm very sorry. I cannot imagine, but hopefully you did not leverage trade. And if you did, you know, I don't know how you're still surviving. But anyways, we simply, I'm simply holding on, did not sell any. I'm still very hopeful that we will bounce back from this, but I'm not stressing out about it. I'm just checking it, on a daily basis. But, my primary focus is just ensuring that the layer ones are going where they should be, and hopefully the altcoins, the smaller cap altcoins such as meme coins follow as well. Once again, thanks for watching and listening in, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.